Most people overcomplicate AZ-900 Microsoft Azure Fundamental exam. They fail not because the exam is incredibly hard, but because they try to memorize all Microsoft Azure, and that is practically impossible. Microsoft has hundreds of services, but for this specific exam you just need to understand the rules of the game. I recently passed Microsoft Azure Fundamental, and I realized that about 70% of massive paid courses are completely unnecessary for this exam. And today I'm giving you the exact condensed blueprint that will save you about 20 hours of boring documentation reading. We are going to break down the structure, the specific trap questions that Microsoft loves to ask, and the realistic study schedule that will absolutely fit in your busy professional life. If you are completely new here, my day-to-day job is working as QA automation lead, and now you might be wondering why QA lead need to have cloud infrastructure certification. The truth is, whether you are in QA, software engineering or management, knowing how to just click around the interface today is not enough. You have to understand the infrastructure running under the hood, and the AZ-900 is your entry ticket. It doesn't test your ability to write complex CLI scripts. It tests your understanding of cloud business model. Why do massive companies spend millions on Azure? Why are they moving away from on-premise servers? Once you deeply understand the why, you'll automatically know the answer to half the questions on this exam. Let's start with absolute basic. Microsoft loves to test your understanding of the difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Let's make this incredibly simple. Platform as a service is a developer dream. Microsoft manages the servers, the operation system, and the networking. You just bring your code and deploy it. Infrastructure as a service. You're renting the raw hardware. Software as a service. This is a finished product that you just consumed. Think of Gmail or Microsoft 365. On the exam you will get the question like, who will be responsible to set up operating system in PaaS environment? The answer is Microsoft. You need to memorize shared responsibility model. This is your lifeline during the test. Another massive concept is CapEx versus OpEx. Capital expenditure versus operational expenditure. Cloud computing is almost always OpEx. You pay for what you consume right now. Remember, cloud equals OpEx. Next, we need to talk about where our data physically live. You must clearly understand the difference between regions, availability zones, and regions pairs. Okay, let's start from the regions. A region is just a geographical area on the planet that contains one or more data centers. Availability zone. Availability zone is a physically separated data center within one region. They have own independent power, cooling, and network. For example, if one building catches fire, your application will be online because it will be running on another zone. Every Azure region is paired with another regions, and these regions should be at least 300 miles away within the same geography. Why does this matter for this exam? They will test your understanding of the high availability. If a question will ask you how to protect your application from entirely data center failing, the answer is availability zones. If the question is to protect against a massive regional disaster, like the earthquake, the answer will be region pairs. There are hundreds of services in Azure, but you just need to recognize the core ones. First, compute. You have virtual machine, which is an infrastructure as a service. You have Azure Kubernetes service for containers, and importantly, you have Azure Functions. And you should remember this because I have this question on my exam. Azure Functions are serverless. They are really highly tested on the exam. The key phrase to remember is that functions are event-driven. You only pay when the code actually runs in the response of a trigger. Okay, then we have networking. You need to know about virtual networking or VNet, which let your resources to talk to each other securely. You also need to know about Express Route, which is dedicated, private, high-speed connection between your office and Azure that does not go over the public internet. My biggest tip here is go to create free Azure account. Just open the portal and click around. You don't need to build anything, but building a visual memory of what the storage account icon look like will trigger you during your exam. So how do I actually study for this without boring out? So here was my exact schedule. From day 1 to day 4, I just go through the Microsoft Azure Learning PaaS. It is 100% free. Yes, it's a lot of reading, but it's a single source of truth. I just read the models and take the knowledge checks at the end. On day 5, I'm just watching some courses on YouTube. I will leave the links to these courses below the video. And I create the cheat sheet for this Azure exam, and you can get it for absolutely free. You can find it out in the first pinned comment. And from day 6 to day 14, I just practice exams. I will leave some links to the exams too. And thank you for watching this video. Hope this video will help you a lot, and it will be interesting for me to know how did you prepare for your exam. Just write your story in the comment. See you in the next one. Bye.